Hey everybody, how's it going? Today we're going to be going over and showing you how to install the Roadmaster Diode Wiring Harness here on our 2019 Buick Envision. So simply put, our diode wiring harness here is going to transmit the signals from the motorhome to our towed vehicle when we're flat towing. Now this is going to be important because not only legal requirements, but we also need to arrive to our destination safe and sound, letting other motorists out on the road know what signals we're going to be making, because in a lot of cases, the towed vehicle here is actually going to be blocking the taillights on our motorhome. So others do need a way to see our signals where we're going to be going. So you have a few different options as far as a flat tow wiring harness go. The diode ones, which is the one we're going to be showing you today, these are really the best in my opinion and my personal favorite because they actually utilize the vehicle's taillights and the factory bulbs. Therefore, we don't have to worry about drilling into our taillight housing with the bulb and socket kits, which are available for this vehicle. And we don't have to worry about using magnetic lights, which sit on top of the vehicle, and you have to drape an electrical cord over the roof there. You can risk damaging your paint, and we really don't want to have to look at that electrical cord on the top of our vehicle when we're driving down the road. So best option really is the diode kit here. They're pretty simple how they work. We'll simply run a wire from the front of the vehicle to the rear of the vehicle in our taillights, and then we're going to splice into 2 wires on each side into our factory circuits. Now, I know that may scare you guys. You definitely don't want to splice any wires on a new vehicle, but the integrated diodes that this kit uses is going to ensure that we don't have any issues with the vehicle's lights. Therefore, if there's a problem with the motorhome, we don't have to worry about those shorting out the vehicle's lights and affecting normal operation. So in regards to the signals that we're going to be transmitting from the motorhome to our vehicle here, that's going to be the running light circuit and the stop and turn signal circuits for each side. We won't have the reverse light circuits, but it's really not a good idea to reverse with your vehicle hooked up to your motorhome. So another thing I really like about this kit is the included umbilical cord. And the umbilical cord is going to be the actual device that carries the signals. It's sort of the breakaway point between the motorhome and the vehicle here. So we have all the wiring on the vehicle, but we still need a way to connect that to the motorhome, and that's where our umbilical cord comes into place. However, it must be durable, and we do have to have removable connectors on each end because it is something we'll be removing frequently. Now, the ones that Roadmasters have developed, I really like these personally. They are super durable, they really last a long time, and we have a variety of options, which is what we can see now. So the 3 options for these are we're going to have a straight coiled one. So this is a continuous coil throughout. We have a straight one on your outside edge here, and then we have a hybrid one, which is a mix between the straight and the coiled. So the correct one is really going to come down to what tow bar we're going to be using. If we have just a standard tow bar here, we don't have any cables to route our channels through, then we're going to use the coiled one. And the coil design here is going to ensure that we don't have extra slack dragging on the ground, damaging our cable. That's certainly not something we want. But a lot of tow bars nowadays actually have integrated channels built into the tow bar arms to help you with cable management. And in that case, we wouldn't be able to stick a coiled cable through those channels. We'd have to go with the straight one, which is what we have here. And the hybrid one is a little step up from the straight one. We have the straight end that'll go through the tow bar arms, but chances are, even with the straight ones, we still have a little bit of extra slack, even though we have them integrated in the channels. So in which case, the best option is going to be the hybrid one. So no matter what tow bar you have, there's going to be an option for an umbilical cord with this kit that suits your needs. So in regards to installation, I've installed several of these kits before, and they're really not that bad at all. Nothing is particularly challenging per se. It just is going to take you a little bit of time. The bulk of that time is actually just routing the wire from the front of the vehicle to the rear of the vehicle. So as long as you're comfortable doing that, I'm assuring you guys you would have no issues doing this by yourselves at home with just some common tools. So the best time to install our taillight wiring is directly after we bolt the base plate onto the vehicle, because we're already going to have the bumper off and everything is going to be much more accessible. However, that's not to say you can't still install your wiring harness with the bumper in place. It's just going to be a little bit harder here at the front of the vehicle. We're installing our trailer connector. But either way, we're going to take our long strand of wire here. We're going to find one of the loose ends, and I'm going to wrap it around the base plate where our trailer connector is going to sit. I'm going to make sure we give ourselves plenty of extra slack when we're wiring in the trailer connector. So I'm just going to tie that off there. And then the other side of this wire, we're going to run back to the vehicle's taillights. So we'll go ahead and do that now, and then we'll show you the path we took. And now we're just coming over here, zip tying it to some existing wires. We're going to come up and over this little splash shield, come along the frame. I use a couple bigger zip ties to secure it to that. Up and over the front cross member here. Make sure we're careful not to tangle it up in the sway bar or the steering. Came down here, over here, another zip tie again to hold it in place. Coming over here on the side of the frame rail, there's this little black plastic channel. I went ahead and ran it through that at the top here. And then it's going to go up and over this pan. There's going to be a line above this that you can kind of reach up in here like so and tie it to. But we're going to come out above the panel over here. So then we can go up and over the rear cross member. You can see our wire here. We have an existing wiring harness up there. I've just been zip tying it to. We're going to come up and over the rear sway bar, over to this side, over the exhaust tailpipe, and here we have the rest of our wire. Now, I'm going to lower the vehicle back down. I'm going to remove the tail lights. That way I'll be able to feed my wire up through that passage there into the tail light pocket. So now we've got the hatch open. We're in the rear of the vehicle here. We need to remove both of the tail light assemblies. We're going to start over on the driver's side. So inside the body molding here between the hatch and the outer edge of the body, we're going to have this little black plastic cover, and there's a little center section to pop out there like so. Do that with a flat blade screwdriver. And then we're going to take a T15 Torx bit and remove that Torx screw right there. So now we can actually pull the taillight assembly straight out. I will warn you guys, these are kind of tight on this vehicle here, so take your time. We don't want to damage anything. We need to be sure that we're pulling straight back. So I've had sort of varying success with this. You can either come to the side here and sort of push on the taillight assemblies out like this. You can sometimes get them to release by doing that, but if not, we're going to take a plastic trim panel tool here, and I'm just going to work it between the taillight housing and the body, working to free that up as best we can without causing any damage to the vehicle. So just take your time, be patient, because again, these are on here pretty tight, but with a little bit more effort here, just going back and forth between the pushing and the prying, we should be able to remove them. So there we go. Now once it's out, we've got a little keeper here for our wire loom. Take it out of there. We're going to press up on the red locking tab and press in on the connector to remove it. And there we go. Now we'll just repeat that same process on the other side. So now in order to get the wires that we ran earlier into the taillight pocket here, we'll show you a nice little trick. You're going to take a piece of airline tubing, any sort of flexible hose you have, stick it in between the bumper and the body, and then once we have it down underneath, we can tie our wires to it. And as you can see here, we can simply pull the wires into the taillight cavity. Once we get them up here, I'm going to go ahead and zip tie our harness to some existing wiring loom here, just so I don't have to worry about the wires falling back down on us. So now that we have the wiring harness into the taillight pocket here, we need to expose the wires coming from our taillight connector. So you're going to have some tape up here, some wire loom you need to peel back, and then this fabric tape. I really don't like this stuff. It's kind of hard to get off, but you can see we've just sort of peeled it back here. If you have too much trouble with it, you can cut it. Just make sure you don't nick any of the wires. But what we're going to do now is we're going to find out which wires we need to splice into. So we're going to get our circuit tester out and do some testing with the vehicle. So we've got our circuits identified here. We're going to be first finding the white wire with the yellow stripe. And this is going to be for the taillight circuit. So about halfway down here, a little bit closer to the bottom than the top, I'd say. We're going to go ahead and splice that wire. And then the next wire we're going to be finding is the the stop slash turn signal circuit, and that's going to be a gray and yellow wire. So a little bit further up from the last one, just offset them. Go ahead and snip those now. Now we'll come back to our wiring harness here, and I'm going to start peeling back these wires because we need to separate them out from the rest of the bundle. So now that we have our wires separated out here, I'm going to start with our yellow wire. So we got plenty of extra here. Go ahead and trim that off. And get ready to splice on a spade terminal. We'll take one of the spade terminals off our diodes. Splice that on. And the wire this is going to connect to from our factory wire here is going to be the gray and yellow one. So this one here. So again, just stripping back some of the jacket, and I'm going to attach another blue spade terminal to the end of this wire. So that was the connector side. Now we have the vehicle side of that same wire. Just do the same thing. And once we get all those crimped on, we can go ahead and attach our diode. So the side that says out on our diode goes to the connector. And then it doesn't matter which one goes to which on the inside. Just make sure we get them both plugged in. Just like that. Now we're going to do the same thing for our other wire here. That's going to be attaching to the brown wire. There is one thing we need to do a little bit differently. We'll fast forward to that step so we can show you the difference. So now we've got our other two spade terminals here connected to the diode with the yellow and white wire. So we told you the difference here is going to be with this brown wire. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and cut that. I'm going to strip back both of these ends, and then I'm going to attach our yellow spade terminal, the other end of this brown wire, and then we're going to run to the other side of the vehicle. So we've got our two wires spliced into the yellow spade terminal. Now we'll attach it to the inside here of our diode, just like so. And now that leaves us with a couple wires left. We have our white wire, which is for the ground, our taillight jumper wire, which we need to run over to the passenger side, along with our green wire. So we'll deal with those two in a second, but for now, we're going to take this wire here. Again, we're going to cut off some of the excess. And then we're going to splice on a ring terminal. You're going to get one of these in your kit. It'll probably look a little bit different than the one we're going to use here. This is a heat shrink one. The one that comes in your kit looks like this, but same thing. Go ahead and crimp this on. And then also in your kit, you're going to get a self-tapping screw, which is going to allow us to ground this wire here somewhere inside the taillight pocket. I'm just going to choose a nice flat surface down here. Make sure that's nice and tight. And now, as we said, last two wires here, I'm going to feed them back through there, down under the vehicle and over to the passenger side. So we've got our green and brown wires routed over here to the passenger side. So we're just going to repeat that same process that we pretty much did on the driver's side to repeat those connections. The only difference is our wire colors are a little bit different. Over here, the white and yellow wire is actually going to be for the stop turn signal circuit. So that's going to splice into the green wire. And then the purple wire here is going to be for the taillight circuit. So that's going to splice into the brown wire. But everything else is going to be pretty much exactly the same in regards to connecting our diodes. So we'll just repeat that same process. So we've got all the connections made to our taillights. So what we're going to do next is we're going to begin hooking up the trailer connector portion. So this is what we're going to be installing here, this part here. The first thing we want to do is we want to take the rubber boot off the back of the connector and slide those over the wires just like so. Now we need to begin separating these wires here. So I'm just going to take a razor knife, and then we can start peeling them apart. So we got plenty of extra wire to work with here, so we can easily just cut some of that down. Once we get those wires stripped back, I'm going to go ahead and cut off some of the excess that we have here. So that's going to be about good. Now I'm going to strip some jacket off of each of these wires here, about 1/4 inch or so. We don't need much. And once we get all these stripped, we can take the trailer connector here, along with a tiny Phillips head screwdriver. We can begin making our connections. So it's going to be hard to see on video for you guys, but each of these terminals here is going to have 2 letters, which is going to signify which wire we hook it up to. For example, the one we're going to do first is labeled TM. That means it's for the taillight circuit, and we're going to hook the brown wire up to that. So we're going to loosen that screw in the terminal, stick our wire lead into that terminal, and then tighten our screw down. We're going to repeat that for our other 3 wires. The white one is going to be GD for ground. The yellow one is going to be LT for left turn. And then the green one is going to be RT for right turn. So now we're going to go ahead and test everything out to make sure it's working properly. We're going to hook up to a tester box here, but you can use your motorhome as well. I'm going to go ahead and turn on the tail lights now. You can see we have both of those. The left turn, the brake lights, and finally the right turn. And now I'm going to go ahead, jump in the vehicle, and make sure those lights are working as well. It's a good idea for you guys to do that. So now that we've verified everything's working correctly, what we need to do next is we need to take some silicone and we need to fill in the back terminals here so we don't have to worry about any water getting in them. One of the fail points we do see with these systems is people not sealing this up here, and then water gets inside the connector, corrodes the terminals, and leads to lighting issues. So I wouldn't say it's required, but it's a really good idea to do this. So last but not least, we're going to go ahead and mount our trailer connector. This is going to vary depending on the base plate kit you have. Our particular base plate kit has these standoff tabs specifically for this purpose, so we're going to utilize them. And that's going to do it today for our look and installation of the Roadmaster Diode wiring kit here on our 2019 Buick Envision.